Lector's job was to read the daily news and stories and keep the cigar makers informed of the daily events. From his position high above the floor, he surveyed the workers sitting at their benches. Slowly, he reached out before him, and taking a large leather-bound book, he turned to the pages marked by the red ribbon. Carefully, he adjusted his glasses, and with one final look around, he began to read in a well-modulated voice. He always spoke in crisp Castilian Spanish. One has to consider that for many, this was the only education available. No one would disrupt their teacher, el lector. Not all of them were men. There were some female readers, too, as is the case of Luisa Capetillo, Puerto Rican, and one of the few women to serve as a lector, first in San Lorenzo, Puerto Rico, then in Havana, Cuba, and later in Ybor City by 1915. Although generally not highly educated and usually limited to broken English, the average Hispanic cigar worker was extremely well versed in local news, world politics, and strangely, with the classic works of noted authors. Most cigar workers could boast a better exposure to literature and philosophy than their Anglo counterparts. Don Quixote, Les Miserables, Uncle Tom's Cabin, The Count of Monte Cristo, and Das Capital were standards of El Lector. Spanish, Cuban, French, Russian, Italian, and American authors shared time with local, national, and foreign newspapers. Dickens, Miguel de Cervantes, Zola, Gautier, Kropotkin, Marx, and Mark Twain, among others, became familiar to the workers in the factories as soap operas and movies are to us today. After the reading, books and papers were sold to the workers for half price. This happened so they could take the material home to their families, which normally occurred on Fridays during a silent auction conducted in the galley. Never a part of the cigar-making process, the lector was an important integral part of the factory organization. Selected by workers and paid by a weekly stipend, he was the nearest thing there was to a modern movie star or anchor newscaster. The responsibility of auditioning, choosing, and paying lectors rested squarely with the laborers in the factory. Generally, the workers elected a presidente de la lectura, a secretary, and a treasurer. The large salary, sometimes as high as $75 a week, made lectors men of substance in the community, and their education generated an attitude of respect from the laborers and the community. The lector institution also did much to promote Spanish values. Aside from presenting reading assigned by the Reader Committee, the lector read a variety of serious and romantic novels. Factory owners in Ybor City and West Tampa initially supported the use of lectors, readers, in their factories. Most factory owners were convinced that workers were more productive and more attentive when lectors were part of the workplace. By the turn of the century, the cigar makers in Cigar City were the most educated labor force in the eastern United States. As time went by, ideas like socialism, communism, and other radicals swept through the European workforce. These men were frequently asked to put these ideas into a local perspective, and such was their perceived influence that owners blamed them for virtually every outbreak of labor unrest. In the spring of 1931, the lector went the way of the dinosaurs. Factory owners were increasingly concerned with the rise of strong labor unions and afraid that the cigar workers were becoming too radical. So, in the summer of 1932, they decreed an end to the lector system.